Fermentation is not a human invention. It is a natural biological process that happens automatically when sugars come into contact with yeast, a microorganism present on the skins of fruit and floating in the air almost everywhere on Earth. When fruit falls from a tree and sits long enough, the natural yeasts on its skin begin consuming the sugars inside, producing ethanol as a byproduct. The fruit essentially converts itself into a mildly alcoholic liquid without any human involvement whatsoever. Humans almost certainly discovered alcohol the same way animals did, by eating fermented fruit. There is documented evidence of animals deliberately seeking out overripe fermenting fruit, including primates, birds, and elephants, that show clear behavioral changes after consuming it. Early humans living in forested environments would have had regular access to naturally fermented fruit on the ground, and the association between consuming it and the physical effect it produced was likely made very early. It was not an invention, it was a discovery, and it almost certainly happened by accident. However, what followed the discovery was deliberate. Humans began recreating the process intentionally, and because different regions had access to different raw materials, the drinks they produced were wildly varied. In the Middle East and Mediterranean, grapes were abundant and wine became the dominant drink. The earliest confirmed evidence of deliberate wine production dates to around 6000 BC in what is now Georgia. In Mesopotamia and Egypt, grains were more plentiful than fruit, leading to the development of beer as early as 3400 BC. In China, fermented rice drinks emerged around the same period. In Mesoamerica, the agave plant produced pulque. In sub-Saharan Africa, sorghum and millet were fermented into traditional beers. Every culture on Earth with access to sugars and time independently arrived at the same fundamental process. The response to alcohol across human societies was never simple. In many early civilizations, it was considered sacred. Wine was offered to gods in ancient Egypt and Greece, and beer was distributed to Egyptian workers building the pyramids as part of their daily rations. Religion pulled in both directions. Christianity incorporated wine into its central ritual. Islam prohibited alcohol entirely, viewing intoxication as incompatible with the clarity of mind required for prayer. Hindu texts describe divine drinks derived from fermentation. Alcohol was simultaneously medicine, religious offering, social lubricant, and moral hazard, and different cultures drew the line in completely different places. Through all of this, the rituals, the rations, the religious debates, every drink ever produced had a hard ceiling on how strong it could get. Yeast produces ethanol as a byproduct of fermentation, but ethanol is toxic to yeast. When the alcohol concentration in a fermenting liquid reaches roughly 12 to 15%, the yeast dies and fermentation stops on its own. No matter how much sugar was added or how long the process ran, naturally fermented drinks could not exceed that threshold. Wine, beer, and mead all sat below it, and for most of human history, that limit was simply accepted as the nature of alcohol. However, distillation broke it. The technique developed by Arab chemists in the 8th and 9th centuries, most notably by the scholar Al-Kindi, who documented the process in detail, works by exploiting the fact that alcohol evaporates at a lower temperature than water. When a fermented liquid is heated, the alcohol vaporizes first. That vapor is captured and channeled through a cooling tube where it condenses back into liquid, now far more concentrated in alcohol than the original. Through repeated distillation, alcohol content could be pushed past 40, 60, even 95%. Whiskey, brandy, rum, vodka, and gin became possible for the first time. Distilled spirits immediately became a commodity. They were more potent, more stable, and easier to transport than wine or beer, making them ideal for trade across long distances. European colonial powers used rum and brandy as currency in trade networks stretching across Africa, Asia, and the Americas. The British Navy issued daily rum rations to sailors. Whiskey became a form of payment on the American frontier. By the 17th and 18th centuries, alcohol was woven into global trade. Today, alcohol is a global industry, worth over $1.5 trillion annually. Beer remains the most consumed alcoholic drink on Earth. Produced from grains including barley, wheat, corn, and rice by commercial breweries operating at industrial scale. Wine is produced in virtually every country with a suitable climate, with France, Italy, and Spain still leading in volume and prestige. Spirits are distilled from nearly every fermentable source imaginable. Potatoes for vodka, sugarcane for rum, agave for tequila, grains for whiskey. Craft brewing and distilling have expanded the variety available to consumers dramatically in the past 2 decades. Alcohol is consumed socially, ceremonially, and recreationally, and despite thousands of years of debate about its harms and its place in society, its presence in virtually every human culture on Earth has never meaningfully declined. Click the video on your screen right now, and I'll explain another everyday mystery you've wondered about your whole life, but never thought to look up.